Hey guys, how's it going? It's Mads Finds. I'm a part-time reseller on Poshmark, eBay, and Depop. Today I'm going to be going over the top 20 brands that I source that sell the fastest for me, and every time I pick them up I get excited because I know that they will sell pretty quickly. There are definitely more brands on my list, but these are just the ones that came to me first. Feel free to leave a comment down below of your favorite brands that you can consistently rely on and know that they will sell. So one of the brands is Packed, which is an organic cotton brand that is pretty much known for their dresses, midi length dresses. And I have found a good handful and they sell pretty quickly within a day or two, between $20 to $25. And I know that it's not the craziest amount, but for me, as long as I can double my money, I think it's worth it. And we also have the brand Peruvian Connection, which is another one of those cottony brands known for their dresses, but I've also sold a shirt for $28, but a dress can go for around $40. And it has a pretty distinctive llama or alpaca, I think, on the logo. Then another brand that has definitely slowed down a little bit, but I still sell it pretty consistently, is Judy Blue Jeans. And these, particularly in the bigger size, do well, but I also sold the smaller size, so I still will pick these up. They'll sell for around $20, $25, so if you get it for low enough, it's definitely worth it. And a brand that I stumbled across that I never heard of before was Carved Designs, and specifically their corduroy shorts and pants have a following for them, and they kind of come in these interesting funky colors, and I've sold them pretty consistently within days for $28, even their jeans, some tops as well. I believe it's sold at REI, so it's kind of a sustainable brand, but it definitely has a strong following. Then the next brand is a specific categories within it, and that is Abercrombie & Fitch, but specifically the newer tag and the work slacks, like the straight leg work slacks. I've picked them up and found them many times in all different sizes, and they sell for a couple days for $40. And also like dresses, like more of the formal dresses, the midis, the maxi dresses, those retail for a lot and they sell pretty well, so there's definitely demand for them. Then my number one activewear brand right now is Wari, where you can get like $50 for a pair of sweatpants. I've found that my local thrift stores don't really know what Wari is yet, so they don't price it up. So you can still get a pretty good profit margin on it. Then we have Pomander Place, which is sold on Tuckernuck, which Tuckernuck is a website that sells a bunch of different brands. Then my favorite activewear shoe brand is On Running. These have a very strong demand, and I sold a shoe within a day for $60. I find this brand quite often, but usually it's pretty beat up and like to a point where it's not even cleanable. So there is that problem with shoes, but when you find a pair that's in good sellable condition, it's definitely worth it. Then a menswear brand that I found recently that sold super fast was Outer Known. It was just a gray crew neck and it sold for around $40. Then kind of a niche category is vintage LL Bean sweaters. They have these cotton sweaters in all these different colors that I find quite frequently, and it has the vintage tag, and they sell on Depop pretty well for $30. Then a brand that doesn't do as well for me anymore, but still consistently I will pick it up, is Toad & Co. They also have dresses, kind of more simple minimalist dresses, and they still have a following, so if you get it for low enough, it's definitely worth it. Then an outdoors brand I like to pick up is, I think I'm saying it right, Cool. And it's the same thing with Wari. I don't think the thrift stores really know what it is compared to like Patagonia and North Face, so they don't price it up as much, but it still has a pretty high resale value. Then another brand that I get super excited when I find at the thrift store is Skims, because there's a huge following. It's pretty basic pieces that people love, and it sells pretty fast. Then a pretty classic brand is Levi's, and I love buying Levi's the premium line because that's obviously the most expensive one that they have, and it's classic pieces that people are always gonna want and seek out. So I've had good luck with Levi's premium. Then a great summer brand I'd love to pick up is Lilly Pulitzer, especially the ones that are patterned and also the vintage items. If you find a pattern that's sought after, you can sell it for $80, maybe $100. I also really like finding the larger sizes. The smaller sizes are harder to sell. I also love finding Lulu's new with tag dresses, especially the new with tag ones. Even if they're not new with tags, I'll pick it up, but it's for events, so people like to know that it's new and doesn't have any damage to it. But I find that there is a market for it because they're only buying it for one night. They don't want to go spend the full price, so they go to the secondhand market for it. And I find that there's also people that donate Lulu's new tag dresses because they bought multiple for an event or didn't end up going to the event, so they just donated whatever they didn't wear because they're not going to need it for a while. Then a recent brand that's definitely on my radar that I want to keep picking up is Fry Boots. They're super in right now. They're leather boots, especially the taller ones. They sell like hotcakes. I sold within a day for $80. And obviously any leather boots I definitely would take a second look at because leather is just going to get you more money rather than faux leather. Then specifically only the vintage of this style and like the Y2K era is Tommy Hilfiger, and Tommy Hilfiger does put the date that it was made on the label so you know exactly what year it's from. And on Depop, the vintage Y2K Tommy Hilfiger, especially if it has like the logo or the Tommy colors, it sells pretty quickly. Then another brand I like to pick up, especially in the summertime, is Tommy Bahama in men's and women's. It's kind of a classic brand that's high quality that there's just a following for. I like picking up the sweatshirts and the dresses and the shorts. Just an overall good brand that does well on eBay especially. Then the last brand is Patagonia, which is a tried and true. If you find a fleece, it's going to sell. If you find a jacket, it's going to sell. Sometimes the thrift stores do price it up, but if you find it for a good price, it's definitely worth it. But that is all the brands that I currently have on my list. But every time I find them, I get excited because I know that my trip was at least made worth it because I know that that piece is going to sell. If you haven't already, please do subscribe and like this video, and I hope you have a great day.